Уважаемые гости, уважаемые дебатеры, мы наконец-то подошли к кульминационной части на всех этих 3 дней. Сегодня у нас финал старшей группы. Вот. Надеюсь, это будет ожесточенная борьба и победит наилучший. Таймкипер, команды готовы? Всем мы вам желаем удачи.
Если будет заканчиваться, мне пообещали, что на YouTube.
Good morning, dear ladies and gentlemen, dear audience, dear judges, dear opponents, and my team. My name is Ali. I am pleased to play this against such a great team. I want to introduce no less great team. I'm the first speaker of our team called Sam. Second speaker is Daria. This beautiful girl will introduce our second speech. The great man, winner of Dnipro Open 213. Our third speaker, Vikirov Siliv. Today we're gonna compete, and the motion is this house believes that altruism does not exist on practice. We're gonna prove it to you, just for our few arguments. Our definition is the altruism is the activity associated with unselfish concern for the welfare to others. Our criteria is to know oneself is disbelief utopia. I mean, we live in a not great world. There is no utopia, yes, you know. Everybody is not ideal. There is no ideal in our world, except our team. Our first argument is altruism is a target, but not your goal. I mean, altruism can be your target. You want to reach it. You want to take this high called altruism. It's ideal point. But as I said before, there is no ideal in our world. You cannot be ideal. You cannot be altruistic. So, I mean, there is no altruism in our world. Being altruistic is unreal. Why? If person does something to please somebody, he makes somebody happy. And he is happy to see that this somebody is happy. It makes him pleased. So we see there is no altruistic aim. It is the aim to make yourself happy. Yourself happy to see somebody happy. We know our second argument is that altruism is too ideal to be real. We live in imperfect society, whereas everybody wants to reach his own goal. He wants to show himself. He wants to be the first one. Or even if somebody says that he doesn't want to be the first one, he wants to be the first one. There is nothing ideal here, but there is something that is good. This good is enough to be good. But this good is always has something bad, because good cannot exist without bad. You know, altruism is like darkness. Egoism is selfishness, is like a light. What is the darkness? The darkness is a lack of light. The altruism is a lack of egoism. So without egoism, there is no altruism. The altruism is something that has been developed from the egoism. Yes, you can.
If that something has been developed, then it exists, right?
It is not exist. It only can be like a term to show something different, yes. Show something other side. You know Albert Einstein? He made a theory that there is no darkness in the world. Because darkness is a lack of light. The same is with the the same is to the coldness. You know the Kelvin temperature, the Kelvin's temperature. For the normal, it's 0 when the water. It is normal when there is a 0 point and the water stays on. But there is another type of measure for the temperature where the 0 is a minus 273. It means that the deepest point of this measure is a 0. The same is to egoism. The deepest point of the egoism is altruism. But there is no deepest point in our society, because our society is imperfect. To know, you always know that every person has selfish features, because selfish features is hide into us. You want to be the best one. You make some moves to show your. Another example. You know our debate tournament, yes? Everybody came to here just to do something. Somebody says he wants to win an award, but somebody come here to have a great experience, to get pleased here, to see this perfect landscape, this marvelous society, to catch up some, carry out some experience, to increase his level of speech, debate, even to improve his English skills. To end my speech, I want to say that our life dreams the utopia. Our death achieves ideal. Thank you.
Good afternoon, dear ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dmitry. I am the first speaker of opposition team. And today our motion is this House believes that altruism doesn't exist. And we as opposition team are absolutely sure that altruism exists in our world. And I'd like to introduce my team. I am first speaker, then this is Serge. He will be the second speaker of opposition team, and he will make the reply speech. Then this is Joanna. She will be the third speaker of opposition team. And of course, as an opposition team, we will prove with the help of our arguments, with the help of our evidences, examples that altruism exists in the world. And I'd like to say some words about the structure of my speech. Firstly, I want to give the meaning, why this topic motion is really actual nowadays. Then I would like to give refutation from about our opponents. Then I'd like to give our definition and our criteria, and then our arguments, the first and the second. To start with why this topic is really actual and important nowadays, because there are lots of conflicts about it. However, our team, Unbridled Spirit, will prove to our judge why altruism exists in our world. And to start with the refutation, the first argument of our opponents was altruism is a target. Yes, altruism exists, and it is the target. We need to reach it. And we are absolutely sure that altruism is not darkness, but darkness also exists in our world, because after day comes evening, night, and darkness. And it proves that it exists. And if altruism develops from egoism, it really exists. And our team, Umbrella Spirit, is absolutely sure that altruism is the light and egoism is the darkness. And we should follow this light, which will make our life bright, yes, because it is light and it makes our life bright. And we absolutely sure, and we can remember the speech of Martin Luther, I have a dream, and in this speech he has never talked about himself. He always talked, I'd like to do for that persons, and I'd like to reach such goals for his generation, for his nation, but not for himself, no thanks. And it is the ideal, this light, this target we should reach, because he was a really true altruist. And also, we should mention that a person shouldn't be perfect to be altruist, you know? You shouldn't be perfect person. You shouldn't be ideal. Because to do good for another people without your benefit is not ideal. It is altruism, and you shouldn't be ideal to do it, because each person can do it. And to start with our definition, what is altruism? Altruism is the belief the belief in or practice of concern for the well-being of others. And our criterion is we make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. What does it mean? It means that we improve our life and we give the meaning to life only by giving something to another person, by altruism, which of course exists. Our first argument is sacrificing life for others. It means that there are really great persons that sacrifice their life for others and help even stranger if he needs his help. We improve the existence of altruism inside of each person. And let's remember the history, the Second World War, and let's remember the stories of great persons, of heroes of our country. Let's remember the history of Alexander Matrosov and his really sad and upset story. He protected his friends by closing the fire of machine gun, and it really was his contribution in the victory of his country. He died, you know. It is not his benefit. He was not blessed by this, but in this case he was not pleased because he did it to help his friends. He is really altruist, and it proved that altruism exists. Let's remember another story of our Crimean hero, Zoya Hudson. You know, she was a partisan of Soviet army, and Zoya was caught by fascists. They put her under unhuman tortures. Yes, please.
She's a very famous person, isn't she?
Yes.
Yes.
But it doesn't prove that she's not altruist, you know, because she died because to be famous. No, we shouldn't think so, because she's really a hero. She did it for her country. It was really her contribution in the victory. Zoya was caught by fascists. They put her under inhuman tortures, and she gave valuable information which led to the victory of our country. But upset final of this story is awful. She died from such unhuman tortures. And isn't it an altruism? Of course it is. We can make a conclusion that people who sacrifice their life for others are the best examples of altruistic persons. Altruism exists. Our second argument is moral and ethic rules of behavior. There are no altruism without exceptions, but the existence of exceptions proves that the existence of altruism. It is the quote of Auguste Comte. The fact of existence of altruism, no thanks, is proved by the volunteer movement who proved that altruism exists. They help the person without any benefits for themselves, without any pleasant. They help person without any money, you know, and it proves that they are really altruistic persons, because there is their target to develop altruism, to be altruistic persons who help and save our society. And this wonderful people helps to another persons. Also, they don't receive any benefits from them and from the people. It is just their altruism inside each of them. Support and show the ideas of altruism will lead to well-being of the society. Altruism is a key to the door of the betterment and development. We educate our children to be ethic, tolerant, and of course to be altruistic persons, because only with the help of that altruism will develop, and it exists. Of course, not all of us are the altruistic person. Of course, there are cruel, bad persons, but it doesn't prove that altruism doesn't exist. And we, as opposition team, will prove it. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Dasha, and I'm really pleased to see you on this game, as it's going to be very emotional. So let me start with the refutation of our opponents. First point was about the target. He told that he didn't understand our argument, as we claimed that altruism can be your target, not your goal. We really strongly believe that there is a thing, ideal thing like altruism, and if you are going to it, you will never reach it, as only death can reach ideal, as we told you before. And talking about darkness, they claim that being altruistic is a darkness, or being egoistic is a darkness. Egoism is a darkness, but we disagree with this, because we should face the fact that everyone in our world are egoistic in some way. And if you are just in the society and you have friends, just not to be lonely, not to be lonely for yourself, we don't think that it is bad. We think that being egoistic is not a shame, is not a darkness, and it's okay, it's the realities of our life. Talking about the quotation of not Martin Luther, but actually Martin Luther King, during his speech he was talking, I have a dream that one day we will have a nation where we will live and will be equal, and we strongly believe that he was talking about his dream, his target. He was talking about the world that he wants to see in his future life. And talking about the examples of people who are trying to do something good for the society, we should face the fact that our dear opponents don't know them, and they don't know their goals, they don't know why are they doing these things. And we should face the fact that we will never see any person that does something just for everyone but not for himself. Talking about the examples of war, you know, this is a very important topic today, as people are doing some great things during the wartime, and we know why are they doing it. Because of the protection. They are doing it to protect not only the society at all, but themselves also. They are trying to do their best, but if they wouldn't do it, no one will do it. And they are doing it just for it, not because they are altruistic person. And you know, we cannot face the war as the example of altruism, because war is a very terrible and horrible thing in our life, and we strongly believe that we cannot give some soldiers as the example of altruism. And talking about Zoe, I don't remember her surname, and our dear opponents agreed that she is famous. And we strongly believe if she is a hero, maybe her goal was being a hero, and they don't know and they cannot claim that she hadn't such a goal. And we strongly believe that it proved that she was not altruistic, because there is no perfect person in our society. Our dear opponents try to make us believe that altruism is not something perfect but something good. But if we have such a definition like good person, why do we need to have a definition of altruistic person? We have it just to have an ideal. Being altruistic is like a huge goal of every person who wants to be very good in our society and who wants to give some benefit, but he is egoistic. We should face the fact, and he will achieve this altruistic goal only if he will die. Talking about moral education and volunteer movements. We'd like to state that people who are working just for free, they have got a target. And our dear opponents also claim that. So if they have got a target during their work, they have some goal and they are doing these things just for themselves. And they have some benefit for them. They have some new experiences, and you know, this is like an example of having a good mark. You are doing your best just to be just towards something, and we strongly believe that this is not an altruistic goal. They have, these volunteers, they have like strong feeling that they want to be very important, and they are doing the best to be important in our society, and we strongly believe that volunteer movement is not altruistic person, but volunteers, just volunteers. And I'll go back to our case. I'd like to remember that our criterion was to know oneself is to disbelieve utopia. And we would like to give you our third argument that sounds like that. We should face the fact that everyone is egoistic. And we'd like to give you some research of Adam Smith, who was a Scottish economist, philosopher, and dietitian, and he claimed that even if something seems altruistic, it is egoistic for getting pleasure from good acts. And I'd like to tell you about one American inventor and writer. His surname is Skinner. He claimed that we respect people for their good deeds only if we cannot explain them. And our dear opponents are doing the same today. They are trying to prove us that that they don't even know are altruistic, and they don't have some egoistic goals which make them to do these things. But they don't know them. We should face these facts, and let's go back to the reality. We should face the fact that we can navigate on altruism, but we will never reach it. And that's a pity thing, but we just want to prove you that this is the reality of our life. And talking that altruistic person is a person who exists, we just cannot state this, because we will prove it during our game that this is true. You know, we're trying to prove it during our two speeches that altruism is an ideal thing, and we will believe it during our whole life, because altruism is something perfect, is doing something just not to do the best for yourself, but we are as people doing everything to survive, just to live, just to not feel lonely, just to feel ourselves important, just to do the best for ourselves, firstly for ourselves and then for others if we have time. But this is not called altruism, but this is called good people, and we really believe that there are good people in our society, but there is no altruists. And we strongly believe that we will prove you during our whole game that our position is very strong. And I'd like to tell you the quotation of Victor Hugo, who strongly believed that our lives bring the utopia, but our death achieves ideal. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Suraj, and today I'm the second speaker of the Unbridled Spirit team, which proposes the opposite side of the topic, which name is "This House believes that altruism doesn't exist, and we strongly believe that altruism actually exists." Well, today, first I will give the refutation. After that, I will continue my case, and finally I'll make a conclusion of the speech. Well, our opponents today said that altruism is something that is ideal, and that's why it doesn't exist in practice. Dear ladies and gentlemen, very sweet chocolates for your game. Bon appetit. And, well, I gave them chocolate. It's very, well, it's cool, and it could bring to me a lot of emotions, but, well, it's not an ideal well, fact, it's not the ideal behavior. I just want them to eat it and to be happy as me. And that's why altruism cannot be, well, ideal. It is just, it can be good. And the synonym of ideality, to make altruism something ideal, is just the position of our opponents. You made it?
Yeah.
Well, no, thanks. It's not the position of our opponents, it's only the position of opponents, it's not the, well, common knowledge. But they said, we have a lot of good people, but they're not altruist. It's not logically. And according to saying about that our position was strong, well, the first speech was about something dark and very bright. It's not very strong because, unfortunately, we didn't understand everything. Well, we have altruism as something deepest, but at the same time, it is something idyllic. Well, we didn't understand the logic and the structure of that. After that, well, examples of Alex Matrosso, our opponents suppose that he's just made suicide. Well, it's not very good. And Martin Luther King, I have a dream. Well, he had a dream for everyone around him was happy, and this guy in 1968, he just died, ladies and gentlemen. He understood that he will die, that somebody will kill him, because he is just fighting with America, with the government of America. It's very strong guys, and well, he understood that he will die, and he died. Because people who he loved, because his 4 little children will live in a better world. Well, secondly, as for the example, well, there are no perfect people. Of course, there are no perfect people. There are no ideal in our world. But nevertheless, we strongly believe that altruism is not ideal because, like an example of chocolate, and there are a lot of examples. Yes.
You had eaten those chocolates. You had eaten a lot before giving it to us, and you are doing this right now to make everyone fun and to win this game.
You can't understand what I'm thinking about, and that is why you can't say that I'm doing it just to win this game. I'm doing it to make you happy. Well, as for examples of Zoya Rohatz, the second speaker said, well, this Zoya, I don't remember her name. And at the same time she said she's very famous. Well, Zoya Rohatz is not very famous. We understood it with the example of the second speaker, it's first fact. Well, second fact, our previous country, the USSR, won the war with the strongest army in the history of the world. And we can understand that there were a lot of examples of such people during the war, but unfortunately or happily, I don't know, we do not know them. And that means that only Zoya Rohatz, only Alexander Matrov, they are not makers of the suicide, they're only brightest example. And maybe she died in order to be famous, maybe, but this fame was just to be an example for others, an example for her, teammates in war, to do everything just to win the war, just for their children will live in a better society. That is famous. Maybe she wanted to be famous, but in order to win in this war, in order her children will live a safe life. And well, I want now to say about our third argument, and it is altruism is like an instinct. Well, we see that altruism is an instinct, but not as an emotional act. Well, it's not about being selfish, and the reason it feels warm and nice is because it's in our instincts telling us it is the right thing to do. Altruism is especially in love. Like when our parents take care of us, well, our parents are selfish, you say, oh my gosh. There is always love involved to help the child or any other person for that matter. Wise words have been said by Seneca. Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness. Speaking about Victor Hugo, I don't know how this book sounds in English, but we understand Russian version, yes? And the brightest guy from this book, Jean Valjean, is a brilliant example of altruism. And thank you for Victor Hugo, I haven't remembered this book. Well, Jean Valjean, he lived all his life to help Cosette. He lived his life to help the mother of Cosette. He lived his life to help French people to win, this revolution in France. He lived his long life to help other people, and he died. And he was happy not because he died, but because he helped other people. When altruism exists, on the example of Victor Hugo. And what about our opponents say a very brilliant fact that supports our position? A person can achieve an altruism only when he dies. But everyone dies, that's why everyone can achieve an altruism, that's why altruism exists. Well, Alexander Matroosov died, he achieved altruism. Zoya Khazi died, she achieved altruism. And Martin Luther King died, and he achieved altruism. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
So, hi everyone, we're glad to see you here, and thanks for such an interesting meeting. And my name is Selim, and I'm the third speaker of the proposition team, and now I'll first of all reject our opponents, then I'll present you our arguments and say about the points, and make a conclusion in order to prove you that we won. So let's start. From the speaker one, we heard such an interesting thing. We get the life by what we give. So the main aim is to get after giving. And that's really true. Thank you for that point. Then, the example of Alexander Matrosov became famous. And now sitting here, people heard it and think, I also want to be so famous. And the question is the following. If the death is, it is a big, dangerous, and the death is becoming. So the question is, be the famous or be like the other people and don't achieve them and don't achieve their aims. So the highest place in the people's mind is they achieve the goals that they have. Not first, society don't have the first place on the people's mind, but the first place is in the self-achievements, okay? I think it's clear. Then, speaker 2 gave us the chocolate in order to prove your position and achieve your own goals and win the debate tournaments. Thank you. Serge, really thank you for the chocolate, it was sweet, but why didn't you give us before the tournament and before the game? Then, so if your assessor has the strongest army in the world, it's clearly understandable that they will win the war. So the question is in the self-safety. If if there is a war, person should fight for his freedom, for his health and even life. So be the hero or be just unknown soldier. Okay. Then, so let's present our case. This house believes that altruism does not exist, and we absolutely agree with this opinion, and we think that egoism is on the first place in mind of people. Our criterion sounds like to know ourselves is disbelief utopia, and our argument is the following: altruism can only be your target, not your goal. Then our second argument sounds like altruism is too ideal to be real, and it's really true. Our first two speakers proved it to you. Then the third argument, we should face the fact that everyone is egoistic, and it is in nature. We can't do anything with it. So let's take our life, yes, as an example. We enter the school and do our best in order to reach the goal, in order to have a good mark, in order to enter the university. Then we enter the university and work hard in order to have a work, in order to have a good career. Yes? Then, in our career, we want to be successful in order to assert itself. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's naturally and normal when person from his childhood try to achieve goals and show the society the importance of his or her existence. It is a fact. And as our second speaker said, yes please.
If a child feeds a dog in his yard, which goal does he achieve?
No, he isn't. Then,
Which goal does he achieve?
once more please.
If a child feeds a dog in his yard, which goal does he achieve?
It's a bit unclear, I didn't understand your question. Please clearly say about the questions and then we will have an answer. Then, let me continue. If we will, as our second speaker said, we have friends in order to not be lonely. We get in school in order to achieve something. We get in university in order to achieve something. We get a career in order to feel the importance in our society from ourselves. And that's why we clearly see the result of humans' work during this long period of time. The aim is to be important, to feel the importance of our lives, to achieve our targets, and to be on the first place. Yes, please.
And what you can say about the volunteers, they do for others, not for themselves. Which goal they follow?
Thank you. Of course, our opponent can claim that volunteers have not their own goals, and they work for achieve, first of all, for themselves, for their aims, and we can't reject it. Then, if we will take everything from the person, yes, let's imagine the situation if, of course, in our society we have everything, we can eat, we can drink, whatever we want, we have money, we have good wear, we can debate here for such an interesting topic. But let's imagine the situation if we will take from the person, yes, from our society, all that he has. And he will not have opportunity, he will not have an ability to even eat or drink. Then this person turn to primitive man, yes? And ladies and gentlemen, really, if we would like to stay alive and if we want to fight in order to live in that world, we will first of all put our target, our aims, for the first place, and it doesn't matter what is around you, what things surround us. It's much more important if you have something to eat, if you have something to drink, and then only then the aim of the society will take the second or the third place, and so on and so on. No, thank you. So. And it's fact that it naturally based in humans, in person's mind. Then, and I think it's clear and understandable that for person, the aim, the goal on the first place. And at the end, I would like to say about the Victor Hugo that said, our life dreams the utopia, our death achieves ideal. Thank you.
Dear ladies, gentlemen, our fellow audience, judges, opponents, timekeepers, photographers, everyone who has come here today to watch this amazing debate. Right. My name is Joanna. Today I'm going to be the third speaker of the opposition team, and our team truly believes that altruism does exist. Right. I would like to start off with my reputation, and obviously, as the third speaker said, that aim is to achieve target. That what has escaped through your mouth, through your words, and your aim, the altruism is your target. So basically your target is to be altruistic. Therefore, do you get what I'm saying? No? Okay. Aim is to achieve your target. You said that, right? And altruism is that target. So basically you're trying to be altruistic. Our definition of altruism is the belief in or practice of concern for the well-being of others. Well, I would ask the question, who likes to be generous? Who would like to give a helping hand to people? But unfortunately, you cannot answer. If you could, you would say yes. You do like to help people, right? Not only for the benefit, but don't you just want to just help a person just because you want them to be happy? So, to start with our first argument, well, we can start with our case, is that, for example, you are in a bus, right? Typical situation. You are in a bus, and a person from behind you has asked you to pass the 12 rubles, so they can give it to the driver. You pass it on, don't you? That small gesture is an act of altruism because you don't want you don't want anything in return. You are helping that person. Yes, of course, he asked, but you gave him the 12 rubles and you helped the person instead of him doing for you. Isn't that a small act of altruism? You know that, for example, you are in a building or that very same bus and you are sitting down. A grandmother or a woman with heavy bags or any person just walked into the bus. What do? Well, you usually get up and you let that person sit down. Another act of altruism without not wanting anything in return. The good part about it is that you don't have to do anything big to help another person. And there is a quote that says, "Too often we underestimate the power of a touch, a smile, a kind word, a listening ear, an honest compliment, or the smallest act of caring, all of which have the potential to turn a life around." Let us think about a person who lets others walk over, which is actually in the case of a picture that I have today. So here is basically a person, and he is letting others walk over him for them to cross to the other side. This little small act, this little small picture actually shows the act of altruism. Thank you. Because, well, what? He may die, he may risk his life, but he still does it because he thinks it is the right thing to do. Moral and ethical rules of behavior. Okay, let us think about a scenario. So you have food and you have two people in front of you. One person, let's say, is overweight and the other person is starving. Moral and ethical rules of behavior that we have learned is that usually most people would choose to help the starving person, to give him the food instead of the overweight one. Why? Because we were brought up that way, where we need to help people. From a very young age, we were taught to help each other, in a way, being altruistic. We were never told, don't help a person, don't do this, don't do that, but we were actually asking and we were actually taught to be generous and to help people. Well, many of you should know that there's actually one statistic or article. It's possible that babies are more altruistic than older people because they think less about it. Which in this new study, basically, they gave let 15-month-old babies watch how one person is sharing evenly milk and crackers and is sharing evenly between the people, and the other one sharing unevenly. For this kind of, let's say, experiment, they see that babies look at things longer when they're surprised. So measuring looking time can be used to gain insight into what babies expect to happen. So in the study, the infants looked longer when the person in the video distributed the foods unevenly, suggesting surprise and perhaps even an early perception of fairness. But the team also say they established a link between fairness and altruism. In the second part of the experiment, the babies chose between two toys and were asked them to share one of the toys with the person in the room. About 1/3 of the baby were selfish carers. They shared the toy they hadn't chosen, but the other ones were altruistic sharers, where they had shared the toy that they have chosen. Of course, not everyone should be altruistic. We're not saying that everyone here is an altruist, but we are saying that perhaps even if there is a 1% chance of a person being an altruist, then it does exist. So even if most people are not altruists, it doesn't mean that that one person isn't, which does support our argument, which means that altruism does exist, even if it's one person, or two, or three. It does exist in our world. We would like to actually share our criteria again. We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. Okay, so we would like to say that sacrificing life for others was our argument, moral and ethical rules of behavior, and there are basically two examples I would like to give. For example, the first speaker gave examples of the debate tournament, that we came here for certain goals. But as I came to this amazing tournament, yes, there were goals that I wanted to reach. But then I realized that this place is so amazing that it helps the dogs that we saw and we actually patted. And we actually saw that they were taking care of those dogs. So thank you. Right, they were taking care of those dogs. So it is an act of altruism by being generous to others, not only to humans but also to animals. What can they get from dogs in return when they feed them and take care of them? This is actually an act of altruism, so it does exist, especially in this amazing school. Right. There are two movies I would like to bring out that are based on true stories. One is Pay It Forward, and the other one is Hatiko, the one that we all know. Two of which actually show the acts of altruism. Pay It Forward was a boy who made up this one, let's say, idea of him helping 3 people, but in return for the help that he gives, he asks them to help another 3 people. And it goes on and on and on, and I actually do recommend this movie because it has changed the world in the end and is based on a true story where you just ask, okay, I've helped you, but can you please help 3 people in return and pay it forward? So we do actually really, really believe and we do know that altruism does exist, even, let's say, even in 0.9% or something, but it does exist. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear audience, for such a beautiful listening. Thank you, dear guys, dear opponents, for such a beautiful game. It is equal to the previous horror game, and thank you very much for that. Well, today I'm making a reply, and first of all, I would like to highlight all the clash points and emphasize why well, our team was strong in that clash points, and after that I'll make a replies. Well, sacrificing life as an act of instinct, it was, sacrificing life, it was maybe one of the clash points. Yes, it was maybe one of the strongest clash points, and well, our opponents gave us a gift while saying that the only way to achieve altruism is to die, but we said that, well, people die. And when a person dies, well, he achieves altruism. That's why altruism stays in the world. Person does not, but altruism stays, and that's why, well, it exists in our life. Secondly, altruism is an ideal, and we cannot achieve an ideal. And here we caught contradiction, because our opponents said also that altruism is a target. Then they said that the aim of our life is to achieve targets. So what is altruism on the to the point of view of our opponents? We didn't understand. But here is the contradiction. Our dear opponents do not understand the meaning, and that's why they do not have strong logic. But we have. Altruism is something good that is easy to do. It's not ideal. We do not argue that ideal we can, well, achieve a deal, but we can't make something good, and that is altruism, because it's not very hard to give your interests at the second place. But sometimes, even if our dear opponents say that, well, egoism takes the first place in our life, well, maybe, but there are a lot of other places, and the second place can be for the altruism, and that's why if even altruism is in the second place, well, it exists, because A exists and B exists. That is why if we firstly wake up and eat to feed ourselves, well, in 3 hours we have a chance to make something good for others. Yes, it is the second thing that we have done for the day, but it happens, and that's why altruism exists. Now, dear ladies and gentlemen, well, I suppose that we highlighted our clash points, and well, we strongly believe that our opponents were great during these tournaments. They worked hard, and that is why we are sure we would like them to have the victory in this game. And maybe after that, our judges will believe that altruism actually does exist.
Hello again, my name is Dasha, and I'd like to thank our dear opponents for giving us a chocolate that is sweet, and they are so sweet, but their sweetness is a lie. And talking about this chocolate, let's go back. You have given us just to get something. You have given it to us just to get the glossary, but we will give you something back. Yeah. You're just trying to say that you strongly believe that we will win just to win. And this is the great examples of your explanation of altruism, but this is not a definition of altruism. Thank you. And the main problem of our dear opponents is that they cannot play with words. When we were talking that you can be altruistic only if you die, we were trying to explain that death is the stop of existence. And if a person stops his existence, then he will stop the whole his life, and he will not become altruistic, as the beginning of being altruistic has not existed. And during our game we were arguing a lot about what is altruism, something ideal or something just good. And we strongly believe that we proved you that altruism is something ideal, our main goal. And dear third speaker of our opponent's team was trying to prove us that having a goal is 100% of win, but we strongly believe that in some games there is no winners, and the game of trying to be altruistic has no winners every time, and we strongly believe that we proved it for you today. And our dear opponents were talking with some examples of great things in our society, and all these good things are examples of not altruistic things, but they all have some reasons. And I have written there that you are doing something good if you have something left. Talking about the chocolate, or talking about an overweight person and starving person. If you have got something left and you will not make harm for yourself, you will give it, but this is not called altruism. Altruism is doing something without caring about yourself. And second, if you have nothing to lose, this was a great example of war. If you have not something to use, it means that you can do something, because this is the only way that you can this is the only way that you can behave, and we strongly believe that we cannot call this thing altruism. The third example is if you will get something for it. This is talking about even parents' love. Our dear opponents claim that parents are altruistic, but why there is a huge meaning that we should then bring them a glass of water, and why there is maybe about their bus example. We are just giving this money and with no asking something else, because the next day we will sit behind this person and this person will do it for us. And talking about carrying bags of a woman who is tired, this is also because we will be tired once upon a time, and we will not ask someone to bring our bags if we didn't do it in our past. We will be just we would have a shame and we won't do it. And we are doing it just to get some benefits for ourselves. But there is nothing bad in it, because this is the reality. And, as we told you before, before, and our dear opponents didn't tell anything about it. Egoism is the opposite of altruism, and they cannot both exist in one person.
Уважаемые дамы и господа, вот прошел финал, мы закончили его, уважаемые судьи.